Okay, everybody. So, as always, just take a few moments to settle in, to arrive. One way or another, it's always something that we want to be able to do. For anything that we go to, really, anything we attend at home or away or whatever, there's always arrangements to make, isn't there? And it's quite nice to be able to sort of arrive somewhere and just think, right, I'm here, and to sort of put all that other stuff to one side for a while. Doing that by just paying a bit of attention to posture, breathing, sensations in our bodies, and just beginning to look for a posture that we feel supported in, that allows us to release some of the tightness in our bodies. And then rubbing your hands together and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. One shoulder. Arm. On the side. Just paying attention to the sensation. You get hand strike gently upper part of the chest. Belly. And legs. Now, you can comfortably come forward on your chair a little bit, feet below your knees, slightly tilted forwards. And just do this little exercise that reminds us of what it feels like when we use terms like releasing, letting go, softening, starting with your shoulders, pushing your shoulders up towards your ears, and then slowly down. So initially, focusing on the feeling in muscles around your chest and upper back as your shoulders drop down. This is probably the most accessible way in to this quality that in Tai Chi we refer to as sung. The Chinese term is sung. So there's a variety of interpretations and understandings, but when I use a term like releasing, for instance, this is the sensation that I'm referring to. As you get more familiar with this, we want to also bring this quality into the upward movement. So it becomes one of the regular intentional qualities of movement, becomes the flavor of the movement. Now, doing the same thing around the center of your body, gently pull your belly in, tighten a little bit across your hips, and then release it. Tendency is that when we do this more in the middle of our body like this, it has a greater effect through the whole of the body. When I pull my belly in, I can feel it tightening in my back and my shoulders, feel it tightening my thighs, my knees. And the other really significant quality here, particularly when we use this standing, is that with that feeling of release, and there's a very strong sense of dropping downwards through the center of my body. And in fact, we know that there's a little bit of movement up and down, but it's obviously not a big movement because the chair's there. So this is rooting down, comes out of that releasing, and requires a softening, a releasing in hips, legs, knees, back, and so on and so forth. But doesn't necessarily mean that we have to bend our knees more to get the rooting down, because we can feel that sensation without the knees already bent, of course, in the chair. So releasing Sung, once again, a really key kind of aspect in Tai Chi. And once again, beginning to feel it in both directions. So now, with that kind of at the front of your mind for a while, beginning to turn your head. Remember, Sung is the flavor of the movements. This can be encouraged with this image of moving through water that we use frequently in Tai Chi. It helps us to develop a sense of flow, to move in a way that is not straining, but is still very strong. And is one of the key sort of characteristics of the art. Shoulders. When we meet resistance, there are two ways that we can begin to kind of work creatively with that. One is, for instance, so if my elbow's up like this and I experience a tightening, I might choose just to not go quite so far next time. I might combine that, or just separately from that, look for that feeling of release in a very specific sense. Where do I feel the tightness? Where can I encourage this releasing, this opening feeling that allows the movement through? Change in direction. Hands down to your sides, rotating your arms. And then winding. And back. Resting. Tilting forward, so more of your weight goes into your feet. One of the characteristics, I suppose you could say, well, one of the sort of outcomes from that releasing feeling is that there's simply more space in the body. So with this exercise, as you go forward, just notice, are you tightening up on your thighs or your knees or your calves? Because that will block the transmission of your weight from your hips to your feet. Still allows movement, whether we're thinking of the movement of gravity through our body and the resultant push up, expansion and contractions of muscles, the movements of the joints, movements like breathing, digestion, circulation, or the subtle flow of energy in the body. They all need space, and the release of tightness opens up that space. And then turn a little. So your weight goes more into one leg. song is also a quality of mind. In the beginning, when I said, we go through these processes of getting to a place and arriving somewhere, and then we let go of that. We allow that to receive. We've made the journey, we've made the arrangements, we're here now. Turn the other way. Moving from the center of your body. And then circling. Now, with one foot, raise the foot up, push out, put the heel down, lower the ball of the foot. We're going to plant the foot, but planting the foot is an expression of sung. You have to look for that feeling of releasing all the way down through your leg, and then so it really helps us to make that connection to the ground, and it creates a space in our leg and our foot once again. We tilt forwards with the weight to go. And then on the other side, first of all, without the weight moving. Transfer. Alternate from side to side as you move your weight across to allow you to change feet. Again, releasing. So we would like it to be a constant. The intention is for it to be a constant presence for any move that we make. Okay. So trying to just maintain that as an intention. Now, hands down to your sides, turn them palm forward, hanging straight down from your shoulders. Once again, tilting your weight forwards, rotating your arms. One of the common translations of this Chinese term song is to relax. And I don't normally sort of talk about that in those terms because I think it's not always the most helpful view when we're trying to move and our body's active rather than resting and relaxing. But one way that we could apply that particular aspect of song is to just think about, be aware of how we're moving and which parts of the body are we moving. So for instance, as we rotate our arms, we will be using biceps, triceps, the radial muscle in the lower arm, and so on and so forth, muscles around our shoulders, big mobilizing muscles. If we can do so, trying to actively relax those big mobilizing muscles, once again create space. And in that space, skeletal muscle, tendon, ligament, fascia will all start to work. So you could say there's an active intention to not use or not overuse certain muscles that often are, in a way, overused. This time, from the forward position, coming back, letting your arms follow. This fisherman cast the net. So this sort of spreads the effort, it kind of deepens the movement a little bit. It's like we've created space for other parts of the body to engage. So for instance, with this forwards and backwards movement, we try not to strain in the big muscles of our back. We use our legs, we use the pull backwards from our hips. And in doing so, we might begin to feel the very subtle movement to our spine. And a good example of skeletal muscle, and I think these are the muscles where it was first discovered, skeletal muscle is less concerned with movement. But between each vertebra, there are little muscles. And as you go forwards in this way, if you're not straining in your shoulders and so on, you'll begin to become aware of a slight lengthening through your spine that pulls those muscles out, and then they start to contract, drawing you back. So they start to make a contribution to the movement. And then imagine the ball underneath your arms coming back, rolling. Same is true for the fascial layers in the body. As you come back here, it's almost like you can feel a stretch inside the body, inside your arm, which then contracts. And at each stage, at each level, we want to get to a point where we can once again apply that quality of releasing to skeletal muscle, the tendons, the fascia layers. Start to feel the movement in the bones, and we start to get a deeper sense of movement. This is what we might refer to as the energy within them. That too develops an elasticity. And then pigeon spreads its wings, drawing your arms apart, feeling chest and ribs expand and then contract as you go forwards. So there's always an intention to bring different parts of our body to one movement, to feel the connection from soles of our feet to the crown of our head to our fingertips. Feel the connection from the sort of, if you like, the surface of the movement right down into our bones. More time. And then pushing away, hands coming back, elbows going out a little bit. So each movement is a full movement of mind and body and energy. And if we practice in this way, we begin to build those qualities so that this way of moving and everything that it implies, everything that we get from it, isn't just restricted to when we're doing Tai Chi. So I'm leaving your hands so they come back in front of your hips. Roll your fingers into a hollow fist. Go forwards, rotating your arms. Punch with both fists. Starting to feel that slightly more resilient, stronger quality that is one of the outcomes of that, what I describe as this kind of deepening of the connection in the mood. Opening your fingers, turning your hands out, winding back. Remember, where we find resistance, bring in the intention to release if at all possible. Finding with the stepping, planting the foot forwards, coming back. Put in, plant down, out loud, turn, and one more time. And then changing, polishing the tape. Turning, easing forwards, hips dropping back, extending out through back, spine, arms and fingers, and then contracting it. So it's not just a case of pushing your arms out, feel the movement building from your hips, expanding out and contracting. When you come back to the center here, just that moment again, song releasing, sinking in, feeling the push up, like a wave coming up with your legs and your hips into your back. And then draining away again and rising again. One more time. Turning your hands palm up. And that same, there's a gentle press down through feet and hips, that same wave rising up, lengthening through your back and your spine. Drawing your arms up and then pressing down. Hands reach the bottom. As you turn your hands, just releasing lower back, hips, buttocks, and then feeling the push up. Change into the wild goose. And then parting the clouds. Easing forwards, hands crossed in front of your knees. Sit back into your hips, sink down into your hips, and then feeling the push up. So when we apply some with this intention to root down, to allow gravity, free passage through the body, sinking down, and then the push up, we realize that without sung, we don't actually get that sense of rise in energy because it requires the yielding, the downward movement to produce the upward movement. It's like if you're on a trampoline, if you want the trampoline to push you up, you have to sink down in the trampoline. Letting your hands drop down to your sides. Bring your attention to one side of the body, the hip, shoulder, the foot, sinking down and then extending upwards. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Draw down, bringing your attention to the center of your body, releasing, sung, sinking down, and then bringing your attention to the opposite side for the push-up. So your attention, your intention at the end of each arm movement goes into your center and then to the opposite side. One more time. Time as you bring your attention to your center, bring your hands there as well, lightly touching side of your hips. Feeling the push up, extending out, contracting back, releasing in hips and lower back, waiting for the push back up, pushing out to the sides. And back. This time, as you push out from that center part of the body, turn in there, redirect your arms and back. The direction. In four directions. Extend one foot, plant it on the heel. Bring your hands in, and when they reach the center, keeping your weight back this time, but tilting forward. Again, lengthening through back and spine. Sit back, drawing your hands over, expanding in the front of your body. Bringing your hands back, adjacent to your center, and then forward. Scooping the sea, looking at the sky. And then hands fisted and grasping the times. Sides. And change. And then preparing to stand. Once again, rubbing your hands together and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. The other side. Part of your chest. Your belly. And your legs. And then shin your heels up. And circle. And back. Okay, so stand if you want to stand. So we want to apply some in all postures, including the standing. This is where we start to appreciate something else that's important, which is our alignment, our general posture. Sung helps to develop our posture, but it is also helped by posture, and this is important to recognize. So, if for instance, I'm standing like this, and I feel my chest is tight as a consequence. If I simply think, well, okay, all I need to do is to release in my chest, this happens because it was the tightness in my chest that was stopping me fall over. At the same time, it's hard to come to the upright position while the chest is tight. So these two aspects very much work together. So standing with your feet hip width apart, toes pointing forwards or slightly turned out, and going into this little exercise, simply rocking your weight forwards and backwards. So in the first instance, we find out we've gone too far and gravity takes over. So we moderate the movement a little bit. The pivot point is your ankles, not your hips. You're not just bending the upper part of the body. So if I stand here with this pole, representing the center line of my body, you can see it's this. Not this, the head nodding forwards and backwards, forwards back, bending, non-directional, but the whole of my body going forwards and backwards. And ideally, we get to a point where we can find a position for our weight, because you'll feel your weight moving in your feet, where your body's upright. And this is where you're more likely to be able to apply that quality of sum. But also, as you get used to that feeling of releasing, you'll realize that it helps you find that position. So it's not an either or. Sung is not a kind of magical cure for poor posture. It still requires an awareness of alignment, how your body's connected, but it also aids that process. And then going back to this exercise where we just tighten, we pull the belly in, tighten across the hips, and releasing, feeling the release, and all the way through our back, down through our legs, into our knees. And so there'll be a very slight forward, so maybe you can see when I pull my belly in, can you see how my knees get pulled back? When I release, they go forwards a little. So there's a slight bend in the knees that produces this strong sense of a downward movement. So sung and alignment lead to rooting down. The rooting down requires a softening and releasing of hips, knees, ankles. And then as we get more used to this, we let the hips go back a little bit more. We get a stronger sense of rooting down and a stronger sense of pushing up. But it's important to recognize that it's not the bending of the knees that produces the root. It's this quality of sum that produces the rooting down. And that may lend itself to our knees bending a little bit more to get a stronger quality, both of the downward and the upward movement. But no, it isn't necessarily the case that that's how it works. Bringing your hands around the standing version of rooting down. One more time. And then wild goose. And then part in the clouds. And so remember, we're trying to produce whole body movement, even better, body and mind movement, bringing our intention actively into the whole process. This enables that sense of releasing, of letting go in the mind. Again, I said earlier, we put to one side the effort that we made to get here. Wouldn't that be nice if we could do that completely? But it doesn't seem to work like that. Often details come back to us, and if we've got a busy day ahead of us, we can put it to one side, and then 30 seconds later it's come back. So a deepening of your awareness of very subtle changes in tendon, ligament, the fascia, in the flow of energy, actually it enables a greater sense of releasing of those kind of details. It enhances this very deep sense of calm that we begin to develop in Tai Chi, and again enables us to carry it with us. Now, changing the stance, so keeping the width of your step, turn one foot out, step forwards, about the same in length as it is in width, and beginning to transfer your weight. Move your weight into your back leg. You rest there and release. You feel that strong sense of dropping downwards. This doesn't involve the knee bending any further, but we still get that strong feeling. We feel that movement, that energy arising, and we direct it into the front. We go through the same process again, releasing, feeling the rising movement, channeling it into the back foot. It goes through the center of the body. We find after a while that the releasing, because it's, it is a physical quality, but it's not, it doesn't take long. So the key thing here is the intention, and it takes up a minute amount of time. In that minute amount of time, we're generating the energy to move with. We're also bringing the mind back to that quality of stillness. Next time you go into your back foot, settle there, raise the front toes, and have the front foot slightly turned out. Go forwards, push the back knee in so you raise the heel. You're now, through this agency of song, gradually coming more into line over one leg. I'll show you again with the whole, without moving my toes and my heel. This is how far the body moves. I go forwards and then push my knee in. I go to there eventually. So my body begins to line up over one leg. I begin to find the root, the alignment, stability on one leg rather than just two. So if you're one of these people who has an ambition to be able to stand on one leg, this is how we manage to do that. And then from here, you bring your foot in, step out. Remember, you're going to plant the foot, put the ball of the foot down, the heel, plant, and then move the weight. When you step forwards, as in the chair, it's heel, forward of the foot, and then plant. On the other side, keeping the width of your step. Remember, the physical structure that we take is important to allow us to begin to cultivate this quality of song, which then helps us to maintain, to develop and to maintain the physical structure. But song doesn't make you in sort of immune to the laws of physics. Beginning to raise your toes and heel. Stepping in. And then take a few steps through, forwards or backwards. Changing direction. Have your right foot forwards. Start with your weight in your back leg, doing a few rounds of fisherman cast a net. A great exercise for learning the significance of all these subtle aspects of Tai Chi and how we can begin to apply them, make use of them. Great exercise for that because it's so simple. So we can get beyond the choreography of the movement. Begin to feel that flow of energy all the way through the body and beginning to understand how we can cultivate that. And coming forwards, nudge your arms, swing up, turning into wind blows the willows. Change sides. Fisherman cast the net. Turning into wind blows the willows. Combine it now with the step in. So again, you can either go forwards or backwards. In the way you've got space, we go in both directions anyway. Bringing the foot in, settle in, applying song, stepping through. Dragonfly skims the water. And then, if it feels appropriate, bringing the foot in, just raising, rotating the leg. And by appropriate, I mean, you want to have the confidence to do this, but also, are you able to apply sung as you raise your leg? Can you soften the effort rather than strain? I'm going to change direction. And bring your feet back. Go back to your chairs. So just to expand on that last point a little, if I stand here and I start to raise my leg, and I do so by tightening around my hip and in the muscles around my pelvis and my belly, I kind of stiffen up and straight away, if I do this, watch. I tighten up. See how when I tighten up, can you see how I'm being pulled backward? So I'm straining, say, in my hip, and already I'm throwing myself off. If I can apply sung, and remember, particularly to say the quadriceps here at the front of the thigh, if I can apply the sung, I'm less likely to throw my posture out. If I get to here and tighten up again, straight away I go back. So sung really has a strong influence on our stability, and again is right at the heart of Tai Chi. It's really a central aspect to it. So that little exercise that we started off with is a really good way to familiarize ourselves with this feeling. We bring it into this last exercise. So letting your hands drop down, embrace tiger, return to mountain. Feeling the expansion through your body, pushing your arms out, trying not to stiffen up in your shoulders. Bringing your arms around, releasing through your hips, your back, drawing your hands in, and then the movement downwards, drawing your hands down. Embrace tiger, return to the mountain. One more round. And rest. Okay, and open your eyes. Thank you very much. I hope that was useful. So remember to practice your song. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.